On today's Derby Debunk, we analyze workouts, the 2 weeks prior to the Kentucky Derby, where everyone becomes a workout expert. We take 2 screens and compare a workout from a week ago to a work today and see they are exactly the same. And most importantly, we make the impossible decision: adding blinkers or workout king. How can we possibly make this decision? Only time will tell. We are back talking horse racing, the greatest gambling game in the world. I'm Nick Sievers.
And I'm Emily.
Today we're doing a Derby debunk on workouts, where the 2-week pattern of everyone becomes a workout expert. I never watch workouts, so I always like to make fun that I know 2 weeks worth of works, and it's for the biggest race of the year. So I know nothing. Emily, on the other hand, watches workouts every day, way too much, maybe a little too frequently. That's not even close to true. How often do you watch workouts?
Anytime I'm handicapping, if there's any time it's a first time starter, a horse coming in off a layoff, and there's any type of question I have about them and that information is available, I watch a workout. I've also been a clocker. I worked, I harassed Bruno DiGiulio at a tournament, I think a Horse Player World Series years and years and years ago, and said I'd love to like intern. I want to learn. My background is in exercise science and all that kind of stuff. You can find out in other interviews, but that's sort of where I got into it. So I clocked with him at Saratoga, clocked a few seasons at Del Mar, and I really I love it. Honestly, it was some of my favorite things I've done in horse racing, and I still apply that information. But in terms of today's video, like you said, around Derby, everybody wants to look at workouts. It's a thing that people talk about. And even though this is part of Derby Debunk, I don't really know, what are we going to debunk today? I think it's something that we have to talk about, but I don't know if there's any one big debunk. How do you kind of feel about that?
I don't think you can debunk whether or not the hype horse needs to be debunked. So we'll talk about a couple of horses that have had big workouts or huge changes, and all of a sudden they become the horse. I think the way to start that is to talk about Further Ado, who prior to 2 weeks ago.
Before we get into that, I'll take it kind of a step back, because I don't necessarily know if there is that one debunk like the other ones that we kind of are able to kind of use historical. I think maybe we could use some historical. We just don't have the information as far as which hype horse in the past and how they performed and whether that was relative, because it's one of those other conditions that is fluid. So let's kind of get into why we do look at workouts this time of year, and why we look at workouts in general, and where that kind of falls in terms of our handicapping, right?
Yep.
And I really think where that comes down to is, like I said, if I'm watching a first-time starter or I'm watching a horse come in off the layoff, I'm trying to answer questions in terms of form. Where does this horse fit? Are they a horse that is going to come back off the layoff and be ready to fire their best effort that they've run in the past that makes them competitive under today's conditions? Or are they the type of horse that kind of looks like they need a race? And then based on where they're placed, yeah, they're probably going to need a race because they're coming back at 5 furlongs, and this is a horse that spent their entire career going around the ground, right? Or it's a first-time starter and they're starting on the dirt, going 5 furlongs. Well, you better have some gate speed. If I see you braking slow and you draw the rail, that's probably not going to be great. You might have tons of ability, but that's just something to consider. So with this, I think that's what you want to be asking yourself in terms of workouts, is that it's answering that form question for you. You've already decided where the horse fits on class, where the horse fits in terms of speed figures, like are they fast enough to win, what their running style is. And now what you're looking for in terms of form is this horse from their race to date, are they improving? Are they regressing? Are they staying the same? And based on that, can they compete from what they've already done? And those things can be a little bit fluid, right? You get those hype horses that you could see a horse that is progressively moving forward, and they need to run a faster race, or they need to pair up a top, and they're working to show you they should be able to do it, right? Or, this horse ran ran a big race, that they've kept their conditioning. They're not tailing off. They ran that big race less than 30 days ago, what their works have been since, how they're coming out of those works, those types of questions. So we picked out a couple of works. We're not going to go through the entire field, but a few works to just kind of maybe answer some of those questions, to at least put in people's minds, so that when they go through, they can pick out certain horses and kind of fit where those horses kind of draw in. So, all right, now let's dig in. So let's start with Further Ado. And this work had some hype to it, just in terms of something that you're going to hear around Derby, right? This horse worked really good, or this horse didn't work good. I would also kind of consider that hype. But this is a pretty high energy move. He's working solo. It is a half-mile move, like under a hold right now. So he definitely wants to do a little bit more. You can see the rider's hands, right? He's got that short rein. The weight of the heels, right? The body weight is kind of sitting back. So you can just kind of, from that inertia standpoint, right? It looks like you're trying to put on the brakes.
Yep.
Now they kind of let him go a little bit. He just might have enough to kind of go, and he's getting into the turn. So he switches to that inside leg. So now he's on that left lead, coming around the turn, still under a big hold. Just a very high energy horse is kind of what this tells me. And that also might be why they are working him solo, because maybe he gets even more racy when he has somebody next to him, right? Or he has a horse that's out in front of him and he really wants to go. But this move is very much kind of within himself. Now, sometimes that can read both ways, to where even though he's doing this under a hold 48-6, so they're not trying to get him to do too much. But sometimes even when you ask, horses can still only be as fast as they can go, if that makes sense, right? So, this is a fine work. I'm not super hyped on it, but it's not negative. It just kind of shows me who this horse is. And they do a lot after the wire. So again, not anything that's upgraded, just more in terms of fitness. Now, when I look at and I try to put that into, that kind of hype, or what we're seeing here in the context of Further Ado based on their races to date, he's a horse that I think some of the question with Further Ado was like whether he was just a Keeneland type horse, because he had run those two big races at Keeneland. That's very tough to deny. But he's also done so. He had that perfect trip breaking his maiden at Keeneland. And then he really was a standout in the Bluegrass, and did have another favorable trip where, he had some trouble at the start, but outside of that, his class was just dominant in that spot. I guess more of my concern, and based on what I'm seeing here when looking at this workout, is this is a horse that kind of just has very high energy, and he's got that kind of one way to go, and can use that tactical speed to put himself in position. But what really happens when he does kind of get some adversity? Is he a horse that if he does get bumped at the start, or if he's between horses early, is he going to try to pull forward and, rush into a fast pace, or just get intimidated and say, no, I'm not doing this? Those are questions that I would still have with a horse like this, because when he gets that perfect trip, he could be very brilliant. Yeah. He has that excellence to him. He has that class to him. But when it comes down to those other factors, we haven't seen that. And we're not at least from this type of work, it's not something that I still have that question mark going forward. That doesn't answer it for me. In fact, it makes me think, maybe I am a little bit more hesitant to that he might need that perfect trip in order to win.
Interesting, because he's not ever really faced adversity in his races. He's had, like you said, the trouble start at the start of the Bluegrass, but otherwise he's kind of just beat horses that aren't quite as good, except for the Tampa race where he ran second to the Puma. And it's like, he ran okay first off of a layoff. Like, I don't know how much you kind of expect off a 3-month layoff from him. So now he's had going into the third race of the cycle, going to the big race, kind of feels like he's doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. And, he's already won at Churchill. He just wasn't as fast at Churchill as he was at Keeneland. So all of a sudden he's a Keeneland horse. And I don't know, he seems like he's just a horse that runs well and just wasn't very good first off of a layoff, which, lots of horses aren't good first off a layoff.
Yeah, and he still ran a winning type effort. He still recorded that B. And like you said, they're probably not looking for a top effort on that day. It's starting off the year, it's starting off the form cycle. This is running in the Derby is the goal. So you're just getting getting some experience. He was a little bit against the flow in there, and then took the big step forward at Keeneland. Now he is running back at less than 30 days off a new top, off that peak effort, off, a dominant effort, but over a group that he should dominate. Now he is taking a step up in class. So those are things to just all consider within the context of the workouts.
Yep.
The other thing that, again, as we're talking about context, I guess that kind of leads into the next point is understanding the context, not only as we talk about kind of further ado and like what that means in terms of the works, but the context of who that horse is. So I know one of the horses that you were looking at was Commandment. So if you want to kind of go through your thoughts on Commandment, and then I can maybe add to it. Or
yeah, I mean, I thought Commandment, he's won the most points. He's the number one in the leaderboard and all of those things. He's beat a couple of these other horses already and ran really well. I've never watched a workout from him until this morning when we started doing this. I was like, I don't know, he looked kind of slow. I don't know that I like him. I kind of don't like Commandment anymore. And then we watched 3 workouts and he looked exactly the same. Now they were all after the Florida Derby, but I don't know. He just looks like he does the exact same thing every time. So probably what he's always looked like. So my expert workout review was, I don't know. And that's sort of where I landed, was like, maybe he doesn't work ever well. And so we kind of watch it, and it's maybe that's what he does. Maybe he is a good workout horse and he's just not trying right now because he's 2 weeks from a Derby.
Yeah, if we have those workouts pulled up. So
Yep.
Do you have one that is before the Florida Derby or before the Fountain of Youth? Let's take a look at one of those first, just so we can kind of go back in time and see how he trains prior to a race. And then we can look at this most recent move here.
Maybe I can, if I know how to work my computer.
That's a lot to ask with all these. I would be completely overwhelmed. So you're doing great.
I'm not editing any of this out either, so you can see all of the things I looked at on YouTube, which is what I was trying to avoid, because I tried to make my kid watch Norm Macdonald, and she found Norm Macdonald as funny as my wife found Norm Macdonald. So I've maybe getting divorced. Now I'm definitely editing that part out. So this is him on the outside with Flood Zone. This is from
March 21st.
March 21st.
This is just 1 week before the Florida Derby. So I would assume, again, we're lacking context, which is kind of the theme that we're talking about here. But one week to the date before the Florida Derby, you're probably not going to look for too much of a workout. As you can see by the time 101 and 8, and they're just kind of looks like, since they get the same time, you're assuming they're going to be kind of heads up in here. So more of a maintenance type fitness drill. But it's nothing too flashy, right? Again, I think that is the context of this drill, was just more to maintain fitness, working with a stablemate that I'm not sure if they've worked with in the past, but at least the plan is just to kind of be heads up, side by side. You see Commandment, just in terms of the rider, it's going a little bit easier than the inside, right? The inside's kind of having to kind of work to keep up. Now the inside gets in front a little bit, but again, shorter path. But it's not for long. I mean, Commandment, just even though they're side by side throughout, just on your eye test, you can see the outside is a better horse.
Yep.
Do you agree? I mean, I know you said
absolutely.
Workouts, but some of this stuff is very intuitive, right? Like, it's just kind of, you're using that eye test to be like, I can see, I know what I'm seeing. I might not fully understand it, but like, I know what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
All right. So
I've watched enough horse races. I know like when one looks better than the other, and Commandment looked better than that one. In this one, which was just the other day, second to last workout, you would assume before the Derby, 2 weeks out, basically. This one, I didn't think he looked very good in. Not good, but the inside horse who he's working with seemed better than him. But again, maybe.
Yeah, let's take a look. And it's also, it's good to note too, since we did watch Further Ado earlier, who's also Brad Cox, you can just see the difference in terms of training style, right? And going into the trainer intent of like what they're looking for, what that horse needs. So the inside horse is under they're both under a big hold right now. Commandment towards the outside. Do we know who this workmate is? I'm not really even sure that matters. Again, part of that is the trainers have already decided who is a good workmate for the horse that is intended to work. And in this case, Commandment. So they're still both under holds in here. And as they come side by side. I actually think this is kind of like you were saying before. He's kind of doing the same thing.
Yep.
This is probably a better horse. You know, they obviously went faster in this work. They went 59 and change versus going almost 102 and still going out past the wire. So this is, I think it's a similar work in terms of kind of what they were looking for, but this one is a little bit more next level, right? Got to go a little bit faster, probably use slightly better company. Commandment, you know, just isn't kind of like waiting to go by to get his cue.
Yep.
I think he would still go by if they asked, but not as easy. So I think both these works are fine, especially again having that context of one and the other. I think that you would like to see him kind of go by, but in this case,
yeah. So that was Direct Strike was the horse he was working with, which we can look up, I suppose, after this, but not one that stood out that I know of. Like, oh man, what a horse! It was more of a, yeah, it's the one he's working with, and maybe like you said earlier, maybe before we went recorded, was maybe Direct Strike's a great morning workout horse, and maybe Commandments needs to get that extra work because he needs to do that. So maybe they gave him a tougher one, knowing that this work they needed to be faster and better at.
He could be right now, just looking Direct Strike, still a maiden, but a horse that has had some setbacks, raced 2 starts at 2 and then 1 at 3. So, and seems to have some ability, despite that race record. But like you said, maybe it's something that they show more in the morning than the afternoon. Remains to be seen at this point.
Or maybe Commandment's terrible. We should all throw him out so I get a better price when I bet on him. Either way.
Good luck with that.
So then the other one we were going to talk about was Golden Tempo, who I think has been thought of a little less likely to win, or for sure less likely to win, given what we assume his odds will be. But he worked the other day, I think also on the 17th at Keeneland. And you had watched this one and said, we got to watch this one because he actually looked good, or the context of this was more interesting to you.
Yes, and this is a different perspective of context. So Golden Tempo, since it has the 4 starts to date, and the thing about Golden Tempo that does make him a little bit more of a long shot, just overall, is the fact that he lacks early speed, and then he has to come make that one run. So that's the context that we know going in. Now, this isn't out of the gate, which I would love to see out of the gate, but Golden Tempo is working inside, and right off the start of the drill. Sometimes they kind of just breeze and then they get moving, but this work is pretty it's pretty upbeat right from the jump. So Golden Tempo showing tactical speed inside of their workmate, not to worry. Horse that broke their maiden on debut at Fairgrounds. And just again, it's not like the type of drill that you would expect with a closer where they have a target in front of them, lengths in front of them, and then that closer starts to run on late. They're keeping them side by side with the workmate. So that might be a sign. And again, I wish I had a little bit more context, but the fact that Golden Tempo was training down at Fairgrounds and there's no workout videos there, unfortunately. I don't know how he was training prior, but this could be a sign that they're at least trying to do something a little bit more in the morning, and he's responding to it in terms of showing a little bit more tactical speed. And then just has a galloper in front of them, but still takes that as an opportunity to be like, I'm going to go buy these horses just because I can, which you like to see as well, right? You just kind of letting a horse say, if you want to pass horses, look, I'm not going to get in your way and tell you not to. You keep doing that. You keep passing horses that are in front of you. That's a positive. So I did like this move a lot. And again, I wish I would I wish I had the works prior to say, okay, this is kind of what they've been doing. And in the afternoon, it still doesn't matter. He breaks slow and has to make that run. But I think if we have the absence of that, and if we don't have the gate work sense, and I'm not necessarily sure they will, they'll probably school from the gate, but I doubt they're going to work from the gate. I could see that being a positive, or at least in the sense that they are trying to get a little bit more tactical speed out of him, keep him closer to horses. And this could be one of those horses that in the morning is showing you that he's stepping forward. And you look at his races to date, and even though he finished third in his two most recent starts at the Fairgrounds and Stakes Company, speed figure wise, he's getting faster with each race. And that's what you like to see on a lightly paced horse. So these works are positive. It's a type of horse that for me moved up. Now he has not worked at Churchill yet. That could be another wrinkle. He gets on Churchill Downs and he can't stand up, and then we go back to the drawing board. But at this point, it's Cherie Debunk knows what she's doing. Even though this is a different monster, she's trained some great horses that we'll see if that's the case. But right now, this was a positive as far as I'm concerned, given the context of the horse and what they were looking for.
And so then the other type of workouts that we're interested in, I think, because they add some more context, would be one, switching surfaces, which you don't normally get, though now with the Jeff Ruby being basically a win and you're in. We've seen a few of these synthetic horses come and run, Rich Strike winning, and other horses last year we had, I've now forgotten the name, but it was like a buzz horse that ended up running fourth and completing the super and had never ran on
the horse that Full Effort is getting compared to, and I forget as well. But Animal Kingdom winning way back when is kind of the most recent. So we'll see. And I think it's also in terms of context, but also changes, right? So when you're looking at these workouts and you have a horse like Full Effort who's started their career going 2 turns on the turf, and then this year has been at Turfway Park on the synthetic, on the Tapeta surface there. So he'll be racing on the dirt for the first time. And so at least you want to see, how does he handle the dirt? And that's kind of what you're looking for in this workout, is not only maintaining form, getting what they need to do from a fitness side and class side, but how they handle the main track. Another Brad Cox horse, just so it happens to be, but similar in the sense that they're outside, Full Effort being the gray with the neon towel, working inside. Right now, both kind of under a hold, pretty snappy move when it's all said and done.
And do you put any extra context into how far they're going between 4 furlongs, 5 furlongs, whatever they happen to be doing?
Yes, but sometimes that can be a little bit tricky too, because what they're given in their official workout time and what they're looking for within that move can kind of be 2 different things, right? Like if they're just kind of breezing that first quarter mile, but then they blast home the last 3 furlongs, that's more important to me of understanding what's going on in that 5 than being like, oh, they did a 4, now they're doing a 5. That's great. I think, at this
how
point,
they do it is what's important. So with Full Effort looking this way, what do you get out of this with the context that we currently have with him?
The context we have with him, as far as the dirt, I think, well, I'll take a step back. What I would say about Full Effort is he's a horse that's going to have to get faster overall in order to win. Just in terms of talking contender. Now, if he's got to get faster overall, is he going to do it on the dirt? That's what I'd be asking more than can he handle the dirt? Because if he can handle it, but it's not going to move him up, then what I see based on his races to date is that a horse has other challenges on the win end. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if he can't win, even if it was on synthetic against these horses, what difference does it make if it's on dirt or not?
Correct. Right. So you'll obviously want to see, make sure that he's not like spinning his wheels or anything like that. But also, it's totally different when you're outside of a workmate. You don't have any horses to the side of you. You don't have horses in front of you. You don't have to worry about kickback at this type of drill. This is a good move. It's a good time. He looks well within himself. I don't think there's anything to knock off that. But again, it's just those other factors that are coming into play. Is that are these factors the thing moving to the dirt that are going to make him faster, even if he does handle it?
Right. And
Yeah.
he doesn't seem fast enough either way. I but I have a strong bias against him because I love Turfway and I don't trust the Turfway shippers in, especially one that, got beat by Great White 2 starts ago. Just feels like there's going to be not a lot of buzz, but feels like he's going to be the underneath horse because he can close, because he proved he can close on synthetic. Sure. That's again, because I don't watch workouts. He looked fine. He looked like he handled the dirt just fine. But then I'll also say, but yeah, he had that knee action. Then I'm gonna say he's a turf horse because it makes me feel like I can then toss him, because then I say words I've heard other people say.
He does. He has more turf mechanics. Now, some horses are just versatile, that can handle both, and they're turf horses that can run just as well on the dirt. But again, you're saying even if he translates that synthetic and turf form to the dirt perfectly, one for one, is that good enough? I'm kind of with you. And in addition to him being a closer in those races and having to be a closer in this race, he's had those fast paces to close into.
Yep.
And again, with softer company. So those are again just other factors to consider, aside from workouts. Was there
One more that we wanted to watch, and this we may turn it to another video entirely, but we'll see. This may be the hype workout, and then on top of that, is it hype because he's changing equipment? And so Chief Wallaby put blinkers on, is going to be putting blinkers on in the Derby, and worked Monday the 20th, and is the fastest horse in the history of horses ever, maybe, after this
well,
workout, according to the internet.
yeah, and it's also that recency bias, right? We're
Yes.
recording this on Monday, April 20th, and he worked this morning. So it's the horse that worked today. He's a good looking horse. I have a Belmont bias. I typically find Belmont horses look exceptionally well. So I'm always like, oh, he looks good. He's a Belmont horse. That's my type. That's my type when it comes to horses. But this is going to be one of those tricky ones, right? In terms of his work is good. He sits right off the workmate, waits for the cue. He's still under wraps. Still, even with the blinkers on, you can kind of see his head action, right? The head and neck action is still kind of side by side. It's stablemate or workmate in this case is a little bit more kind of like up and down versus that side to side. Can you see sort of the difference in there?
Yep.
And part of you're seeing that head up and down is when they're under a hold. That's just kind of natural what horses do.
Yep.
Type of a thing. So Wallaby is a little bit more side to side. Now, in terms of the blinkers edition, we can talk about this in terms of changes and when we might make this a third video, because you can't make the equipment changes into the Derby. That is probably something that we could kind of debunk. But in terms of that, what I would say in terms of an equipment change debunk is, what are those individuals getting that change? Is it more of a desperation move, which you see all the time, right? This horse hasn't won in 5 starts. He's had no excuse. We'll try the blinkers. We'll try the gelding. We'll try the rider change. We'll put the apprentice up. We'll throw everything we got at the horse. Or is this a horse that they've been needing to put blinkers on him all along, and now they finally do, and it could be all the difference? Because if you're assessing Chief Wallaby and you're saying, okay, he's fast enough, he's classy enough, he's held his own in graded stakes company, he's just not been quite willing to pass horses or stay focused in that time that he needs to, that those blinkers would make a difference, I probably would be less negative. I would, kind of not throw out the historical altogether, but again, it's one of those things that, like, if you're getting price compensation. Now, if he becomes the hype horse off this workout and he ends up becoming an underway, then maybe you kind of hold those blinkers. Maybe you can put that historical a little bit more weight on it, again, because it does come down to the number in that case.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about doing that video because there's the idea that when you add blinkers, you are doing something that you aren't supposed to be doing prior to the Derby, right? John White has his rating system, and that's a strike, is that you put blinkers on, you can't win, or it's a strike against you, perhaps. However, I'm going to spoil it if you don't have optics. There's a note from the Florida Derby that says equipment ? which makes you think probably needed
Yeah.
him either way.
Yeah.
And the people at Optics kind of know what they're doing, so maybe they should have been doing that. Also, it's he
He's
hasn't been winning, so this is kind of the time to like make that move and like probably prefer it not be the Derby when you're needing to do these different things. But the Derby is the next race, so what else are they supposed to do? Wait and let him lose this one just so he can go win a different race?
well, yeah, and also since we're talk about context and everything, Chief Wallaby got a late start. He didn't debut until January. He only has 3 starts coming into this race. His debut, they won dominantly first out.
Yep.
So clearly you're not going to add the blinkers for that second start. Like you just
Right.
did something really good.
Yep.
So and then you run an extremely good second in the Fountain of Youth.
Yep.
Then with a little bit more racing and that company, you go, maybe as the waters are getting a little bit deeper, this horse can't just get away with,
Yep.
not with losing focus and still winning the race on pure ability. He's going to need that little bit. So he really hasn't had that time, right? If we were talking about a horse like who do I want to pick on in here? Well, the horse we just watched, right? Like Full Effort, for example,
Yep.
who raced as a 2-year-old, who started already this year 3 times. Like if they were adding the blinkers, that would be just like you're trying way too many things. You're feeling a move of desperation in here because you've had plenty of time to kind of tweak with this horse and get him a little bit faster, right? And in the case of Chief Wallaby, they just really haven't had that time to do it. But yeah, I think in this work, I think if he had been a little bit more focused and he still wasn't kind of doing the people that are hopefully watching the video and not just listening for the sound, because then they won't see me doing my head side to side. But yeah, if he was doing that, but I think this is probably a video that you do want to be watching because we have the workouts being shown. I would probably want to see that a little bit more, but I will watch his next work for sure and see how he comes out.
So, I mean, I think the general idea about workouts is they matter. There is no debunking whether or not workouts matter. It's how much of the hype are you going to buy with the workouts? I have 2 notes on my calendar. One of them popped up last Saturday that said, don't listen to the workout hype. Don't listen to the workout hype. Don't listen to the workout hype. And one that comes up next Thursday that says the pace in the Derby is going to be fast. And it's just, whether or not that's true, it's been true the last 5 years. Maybe this year is different. I kind of say this year is different, but I'm going to remind myself on Thursday next week, it's probably going to be fast, whether you want it to be or not, right? Whether on paper it says it is, it's likely going to be faster. So workouts for sure matter. If you don't know anything about workouts, you've never watched a workout until right now, don't believe that this now makes a horse win the Derby. Listen to people that know what they're doing, like you, like Bruno, like other people that do workouts on a regular basis that seen horses work over and over again, as opposed to, me hopping on here and being like, oh my God, did you see that workout? Fastest horse in the world. Go get your bet in right now.
Yeah, and you can look for yourself. You can watch the videos too. And even if you are novice, if it's something that you want to get into, everybody has to start somewhere. So watch works, listen to what people are saying, see if you agree or disagree. It's okay to do both. You might disagree. You're seeing something different, or you're looking for something different than what the person who thinks it's a great work is. It's something that means something a little bit more to you. The other thing that I will add on that is there's the hype all around. There's also, I think you should take the quotes from the connections with a grain of salt, because their interest is that horse. They have a boss, right? They have a trainer, they have an owner, they have somebody above them that, they need to be kind of diplomatic with their speech. And the same thing with people that are on air as well, right? They have a corporation that they work for who may or may not monitor what they say. And so you have to kind of go through that with a filter. And it comes back to, if you are, I think Bruno's great. When I went to Saratoga, I've already mentioned it. Like, I've worked with Bruno. He has a great eye for horses. He has a lot of context of who these horses are, going way back, kind of like what we do for Optics. We start from the horse's very first race. So we see that development. Bruno's doing that in the morning, watching these horses. He has not only a great eye, but he's got a Rolodex of who this horse was then and who they are now, and how that impacts what they're doing on the first Saturday in May. So there's a lot into it. We're kind of throwing it in the debunk, even though there's not really much to debunk, but I think there's some good information that can help people around the time where a lot of talk is about workouts surrounding the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's all you have to go off of. So it's what we talk about, right? Like we can't talk about the Pat Day Mile because we don't know who's in it. We can't talk about the Oaks. Well, we talk about the Oaks, but we don't care about the $75,000 claimer that's running tomorrow. We care much more about these workouts that are going on right now.
Yeah, we still care about
no debunking going on here, but at the very least, we get to watch some horses, which is always a fun thing.
Yeah, right, it fits in the series. It fits in the series a little bit one-off, and
it works. All right, Emily, it was as always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we'll see you next time.